Have you ever felt your heart racing right before an intimate moment? Not from excitement, but from that quiet voice in your head asking if you're doing enough? Maybe you've caught yourself wondering if he's actually enjoying this, or if his mind has drifted somewhere else. Perhaps you felt that sinking feeling when things become routine, predictable, like you're going through motions rather than creating magic. You're not alone in this. Thousands of women lie awake at night replaying intimate moments, wondering what they could have done differently, feeling like there's some secret everyone else knows that they somehow missed. The truth is, most women carry this silent anxiety into the bedroom. This fear that they're not exciting enough, not skilled enough, not enough period. And here's what makes it worse. We've been taught that intimacy should just flow naturally, that if we have to think about it or learn about it, something must be wrong with us. So we stay quiet about our uncertainties, smile and nod when friends talk about their amazing experiences, and privately wonder why it doesn't feel that effortless for us. This nervousness, this overthinking, this desire to be better, it's been labeled as a problem, as something that makes us less desirable. But what if I told you that everything you've been taught about this is backwards? What if that sensitivity you have, that awareness of every detail, that desire to truly connect, rather than just go through motions, those aren't weaknesses, but actually your greatest assets? Your support truly keeps this channel going. YouTube doesn't always promote relationship content, so your likes, shares, and subscriptions, they directly help us reach more people who need this guidance. Check out the support options below, and thank you, sincerely, for being here. Here's the reframe that changes everything. That sensitivity you have, that awareness of every detail, that desire to truly connect rather than just go through motions, those aren't weaknesses. They're actually your greatest assets. See, while you've been worried about not being enough, you've been developing something most people never cultivate: genuine attentiveness. You notice his responses. You care about his experience. You want real connection, not just physical contact. And here's what no one tells you. Men are starving for exactly this kind of attention. Not the performative kind they see in movies, but the real, present, emotionally intelligent kind that you're already capable of giving. The problem isn't that you're not enough. The problem is that you haven't been taught how to channel your natural sensitivity into specific moves that create unforgettable experiences. What if I told you that your nervousness is actually your secret weapon? I know that sounds impossible. We are conditioned to think confidence means being loud, aggressive, or performing like an adult film star. But true magnetic power doesn't come from a performance. It comes from sensitivity. That anxiety you feel, that is your body being hyper-aware of the energy in the room. It means you care. It means you are attuned to him. And here's the secret that men will rarely tell you. They don't actually want a performance. They don't want a woman who is running through a checklist of moves she learned in a magazine. What excites a man, what drives him absolutely wild on a primal psychological level, is a woman who is present, a woman who feels. When you stop trying to hide your nervousness and instead channel that energy into the moment, you shift from being insecure to being sensitive. You shift from awkward to anticipatory. Today, I'm revealing 9 secret moves that transform ordinary foreplay into something he'll think about for days afterward. These aren't random tips. Each one builds on the last, creating layers of anticipation and connection that most couples never experience. The first 3 establish the foundation, teaching you how to slow everything down and create magnetic presence. Moves 4 through 6 intensify the experience, adding depth and emotional connection that goes beyond the physical. And the final 3, moves 7 through 9, these are the game changers. These are the techniques that separate forgettable experiences from unforgettable ones. I need you to understand something important before we begin. The last 3 moves are the most powerful, but they only work if you understand the foundation. So if you skip ahead, you'll miss the psychology that makes everything else click into place. Each move we cover builds your confidence and understanding, preparing you for the next level. By the end of this video, you won't just have 9 techniques. You'll have a complete framework for creating the kind of intimacy that deepens emotional bonds and keeps desire alive for years. We aren't going to talk about complicated gymnastics or changing who you are. Instead, I am going to share with you 9 specific, secret moves. These aren't just physical techniques, they are psychological triggers. They are small, subtle shifts in how you move, how you breathe, and how you engage that bypass his logical brain and speak directly to his desire. Before we dive into the specific moves, you need to understand the foundation that makes all of this work. There's a massive gap between what men say they want and what actually excites them on a deep psychological level. If you ask most men what they want during foreplay, They'll give you surface-level answers, but their bodies and brains respond to something much more specific, something most of them can't even articulate. The secret is this: men are incredibly responsive to three things during intimate moments. First, they respond to anticipation. The human brain releases more dopamine during the anticipation of pleasure than during the pleasure itself. This means that how you build up to a moment matters more than the moment itself. When you rush through foreplay, you're actually skipping the most neurologically powerful part of the experience. Second, men are deeply affected by your presence, not your performance, your presence. When you're genuinely there, fully engaged, not thinking about your to-do list or whether you look okay, he feels it in his entire body. This presence creates emotional safety, and emotional safety allows him to fully let go in ways he rarely does. Third, men crave feeling desired, not just tolerated. There's a world of difference between a woman who's going through the motions and a woman who genuinely wants to be close to him. He can feel this difference even if he can't name it, and it affects everything about how his body responds. Society tells us men are simple, visual creatures who just want to get to the finish line. And sure, there is a biological drive there, but if you treat intimacy like a race to the finish, you miss the entire point of female power. Men are secretly starving for something they rarely get: anticipation. Most men live their lives in high-stress, high-performance modes. They are constantly rushing. When they come to you, if you are also rushing, if you are also treating intimacy like a task to be completed, it feels empty. It might feel good physically, but it doesn't feed his soul. What excites a man most is not the act itself, but the tension before the act. It is the feeling of being wanted, the feeling of being seen, and the feeling of safety. When you can slow down and create a space where nothing is rushed, you become a sanctuary for him. You become the only place in his world where time stops. That is what makes you addictive. These 9 moves are designed to slow down time. They are designed to make him feel safer, more desired, and more excited than he has felt in years. And the best part? They take all the pressure off of you. You don't have to perform, you just have to be. Move number 1 is called the magnetic pause, and it's going to challenge everything you think you know about timing. Most of us have been conditioned to keep things moving, to avoid awkward silences, to fill every moment with action or words. But here's what that does. It creates a sense of urgency and anxiety rather than anticipation and desire. When you pause deliberately, strategically, right before a significant moment, something powerful happens in his brain and body. This is the antidote to that rushing feeling we talked about. When we are nervous, our instinct is to speed up. We talk fast, we move fast, we touch fast, because we are trying to outrun the awkwardness. We think if we just keep things moving, he won't notice our hands shaking. But speed kills intimacy. Speed kills sensation. The magnetic pause is the act of deliberately stopping right before you think you should. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine you're close to him, maybe you've been talking, maybe you've been cuddling, and there's that moment when you both know a kiss is coming. Instead of immediately closing the distance, you pause. You let the space between you hold all that energy. You might be just inches from his lips, close enough that he can feel your breath, but you wait. 2 seconds. 3 seconds. In that pause, his entire nervous system lights up with anticipation. His brain starts flooding with dopamine, his heart rate increases, his focus narrows completely to you and this moment. By the time your lips actually meet, the neurological buildup has made that kiss exponentially more powerful than it would have been if you'd rushed straight into it. This same principle applies to touch. Before you place your hand on his chest, his arm, his face, hover there for just a moment. Let him anticipate the contact. Let his skin almost ache for your touch before you give it to him. The pause communicates something crucial. You're not in a hurry, you're savoring him. You're so confident in this moment that you can afford to slow it down, to draw it out, to make it last. This is the opposite of nervousness, even though it might feel vulnerable at first. Nervousness makes us rush. Confidence allows us to pause. And here's the beautiful paradox. Even if you feel nervous, the act of pausing makes you appear confident, and that appearance of confidence actually helps you feel more confident. It's a positive feedback loop. Where else can you use the magnetic pause? In conversation, right before you say something intimate or vulnerable. In movement, right before you lean in or pull away. In eye contact, holding his gaze for just a beat longer than feels comfortable. Each pause is a moment where desire builds, where his attention locks onto you completely, where the ordinary becomes electric. Start small if this feels uncomfortable. Add just 1 extra second to moments that would normally be quick. Notice how that 1 second changes the energy between you. As you get more comfortable, you'll find natural places to pause, and you'll start to feel the power of controlling the pace. This isn't manipulation. It's artistry. It's understanding that the space between notes is what makes music beautiful, and the space between touches is what makes intimacy unforgettable. Move number 2 is the whisper technique, and it's going to transform how you use your voice during intimate moments. Most women don't realize that their voice changes dramatically throughout the day based on stress, task mode, and emotional state. During daily life, our voices tend to be higher pitched, faster paced, more clipped and efficient. We're getting things done, managing responsibilities, staying on task, but that voice, that task-oriented voice, completely kills intimacy when we bring it into the bedroom. Most of us have a daytime voice. It's the voice we use to order coffee, talk to our boss, or manage the kids. It's usually projected, slightly higher pitched, and efficient. But that voice has no place in the bedroom. That voice triggers his alert brain, not his intimate brain. Here's what you need to understand about the male brain and auditory processing. Whispers and low, slow vocal tones bypass the logical processing centers and go straight to the emotional and arousal centers. It's neurological. A whispered voice signals intimacy, secrecy, vulnerability, and safety all at once. It forces him to lean in, to focus completely on you, to strain slightly to hear every word, which means his attention is absolutely locked on what you're saying. The whisper technique isn't just about lowering your volume, it's about changing the texture of your sound. I want you to think about dropping your voice down into your chest, slowing your cadence, and adding breath to your words. It's not about what you say, it's about how it vibrates. The technique has 3 components. First, drop your voice about an octave lower than your normal speaking voice. You're not trying to sound like someone else. You're accessing the lower, more resonant part of your natural range. Second, slow your cadence way down. If you normally speak at 150 words per minute, cut that in half. Let there be space between words. Let each word land before you move to the next. Third, add breath. Not heavy breathing like you're out of breath, but allowing him to hear the soft sound of your breath between words, making your voice feel more intimate and physical. Now, what do you actually whisper? Here's where most advice goes wrong by giving you scripts that feel fake and performative. Instead, whisper things that are true for you in that moment. If you love being close to him, whisper that. If something he just did felt amazing, tell him in that low, slow voice. If you want him to stay right where he is, whisper that request. The content matters less than the delivery. A simple statement like, "I love being this close to you," whispered slowly near his ear, has more impact than any elaborate phrase said in a normal voice. You don't need to say anything dirty or complicated. You can simply whisper his name. You can whisper, "You feel so warm." You can whisper, "I love being close to you." The content matters less than the delivery. When you drop your voice, you signal safety. You signal that this is a private world just for the two of you. It invites him to lean in closer. It forces him to quiet his own mind to hear you. And here's a specific moment when the whisper technique is devastatingly effective. Right after a kiss, when your lips are still close to his, whisper something before pulling back. Or when you're close to his ear, maybe your hand on his chest or his face. Whisper what you're thinking or feeling. The combination of physical proximity, intimate tone, and genuine words creates an experience he'll replay in his mind for days. Practice this when you're alone if it feels awkward at first. Get comfortable with the sound of your intimate voice. Notice how different it feels from your everyday voice. This isn't about being someone you're not. It's about accessing a part of your natural range that you may have forgotten exists. Your intimate voice is already inside you. You're just learning to bring it out intentionally. Move number 3 is the intentional touch, and it's going to teach you the difference between contact and connection. We touch our partners constantly throughout the day. A hand on the shoulder while passing in the kitchen, a quick hug before leaving for work, a pat on the arm during conversation. But most of this touch is casual, absent-minded, almost automatic. It serves a social function but doesn't create any real charge or energy. There is a massive difference between touching someone out of habit and touching someone with intention. Often, in long-term relationships, touch becomes utilitarian. We pat a back, we grab a hand, we rub a shoulder, but our minds are elsewhere. We are thinking about the grocery list or the laundry. He can feel that. He knows when you are touching him just to touch him. Intentional touch is completely different. It's touch where your full attention is present in your hand, where you're not thinking about anything except the sensation of his skin, the warmth of his body, the texture and contours you're exploring. This kind of touch communicates something that words never could. You find him worth savoring. You're not in a hurry to get anywhere. You're genuinely interested in the experience of touching him. Here's how it works. Before you touch him, take a breath and bring your full awareness to your hand. Feel the air against your palm. Notice the slight tingling of anticipation. Then, when you make contact, move slowly. I mean significantly slower than your normal touch. If you're tracing your fingers along his arm, take 10 seconds to travel from his wrist to his shoulder instead of 2. Pay attention to what you're feeling. Notice the shift from the slightly cooler skin of his forearm to the warmer skin of his upper arm. Feel where his muscles are tense and where they're relaxed. This isn't massage, it's exploration. Instead of a firm, rhythmic rub, try a feather-light trace. Use your fingertips to trace the line of his collarbone, the curve of his ear, or the sensitive skin on the inside of his wrist. Move slower than you think you need to. Imagine your hand is moving through water. When you slow down your touch, you activate different nerve endings in his skin, the ones responsible for deep emotional connection and soothing. This kind of touch tells him, I am here with you, nowhere else, just here. It makes him feel precious. It makes him feel studied. And here's what happens for him. When you touch him this slowly, with this much attention, his nervous system interprets it as high-value attention. His brain registers that you're genuinely interested, genuinely present, and that makes him feel chosen and desired in a way that quick, casual touch never does. There are specific areas that most women overlook, but that are incredibly responsive to intentional touch. The back of his neck, right where his hairline meets his skin, his inner wrists, where the skin is thin and sensitive. His collarbone area, especially tracing along the bone slowly, the small of his back, right above his waistband. These areas don't get much attention normally, which makes them perfect for intentional touch. When you explore these places slowly, with full presence, you're giving him sensations he's probably not used to receiving, which makes the experience memorable and unique. And for you, focusing entirely on the sensation of his skin under your fingers is a form of meditation. It gets you out of your head and into your body. If you feel your mind drifting, or that anxiety creeping back in, just focus on your fingertips. What does his skin feel like? Is it warm? Is it smooth? Is there a pulse? Anchor yourself in that sensation, and watch how his body relaxes into yours. But here's the key, you have to actually be present. If you're touching him while thinking about whether you're doing it right, or what comes next, or how you look, that divided attention shows up energetically. He might not be able to name what's different, but he'll feel the difference between present touch and distracted touch. So the practice is this. When you touch him, make that the only thing you're doing, not touching him while also planning or worrying or performing. Just touching, just exploring, just being curious about the experience. Now I need to pause for a moment and talk about why these first 3 moves work on such a deep level, because understanding the psychology will help you use them more effectively and adapt them to your unique situation. What we've covered so far, the magnetic pause, the whisper technique, and the intentional touch, these aren't random tips. They're all working on the same fundamental principle. They shift the dynamic from you trying to please him to you being fully present with him. And that shift is everything. We have established a foundation now. We have slowed down with the pause, we have deepened the vibe with the whisper, and we have connected physically with intentional touch. I want you to pause here for a second and check in with yourself. How does this feel? Does it feel less daunting than trying to perform a complex acrobatic act? That is the point. Real intimacy isn't about doing more. It is about feeling more. The moves we have discussed so far are about creating a container, a bubble of safety and focus. When you use these techniques, you aren't just turning him on. You are telling him, without words, that he is the most important thing in your world right now. You are telling him that he is safe to let go of his stress and his armor. That is a gift that is incredibly rare in the modern world. And because it is so rare, it is incredibly addictive. Here's what most advice about intimacy gets wrong. It treats intimate moments like a performance where you're trying to do the right things in the right order to get the right response. But that performance mindset creates anxiety, self-consciousness, and disconnection. You end up in your head instead of in your body. You're watching yourself from the outside instead of experiencing the moment from the inside. And he feels that disconnection even if he can't articulate it. What the pause, the whisper, and the intentional touch all do is pull you into the present moment. When you pause before a kiss, you have to be present to hold that space. When you whisper slowly, you have to be present to maintain that pace. When you touch with full attention, you have to be present to feel what you're feeling. And when you're present, he feels met, he feels seen, he feels like you actually want to be there with him, not like you're performing for him. This creates emotional safety, and emotional safety is the foundation of deep desire. When he feels safe, when he trusts that you're genuinely engaged and not just going through motions, his entire nervous system relaxes into arousal instead of staying tense with performance anxiety. Yes, men have performance anxiety too. They worry about whether they're doing enough, whether you're enjoying yourself, whether they're taking too long or going too fast. But when you're clearly present, clearly engaged, clearly enjoying the experience, all of that anxiety dissolves. He can finally let go and actually feel what's happening. Before we move into the next 3 moves, I want to address something that might be coming up for you right now. If you're feeling a little overwhelmed, or if part of you is thinking this sounds good in theory but you're not sure you can actually do it, that's completely normal. Change always feels uncomfortable at first, even positive change. You've developed certain patterns over months or years, and shifting those patterns requires courage and patience with yourself. Here's what I want you to know. You don't have to be perfect at any of this. In fact, the pursuit of perfection is exactly what gets in the way of presence. If you pause before a kiss and it feels awkward, that's okay. If you try to whisper and your voice cracks or you feel self-conscious, that's okay. If you attempt intentional touch and your mind wanders, that's okay. This is a practice, not a performance. Every time you try, you're building new neural pathways, developing new habits, expanding your capacity for presence and confidence. And here's something beautiful. He's not grading you. He's not sitting there with a checklist making sure you execute everything perfectly. He's responding to your energy, your intention, your genuine engagement. Even an imperfect attempt at presence is infinitely more connecting than a perfect performance of disconnection. So give yourself permission to be a beginner. Give yourself permission to try things that feel slightly outside your comfort zone. Give yourself permission to discover what works for you and what doesn't through experimentation rather than trying to get it right the first time. The women who transform their intimate lives aren't the ones who never feel uncertain. They're the ones who feel uncertain and try anyway. They're the ones who give themselves permission to learn, to grow, to become more of who they want to be one small step at a time. Can you feel the shift? We started with overcoming nervousness, moved into building a safe foundation, and now we are playing with intensity and control. You are not just a woman hoping she is doing it right anymore. You are a woman who understands the machinery of desire. You are learning that you can control the speed, the depth, and the emotional tone of the encounter. This is what it means to be an empowered lover. It's not about knowing 100 positions, it's about knowing how to manage the energy in the room. Move number 4 is the eye contact lock, and for many women, this is the most challenging and most transformative move of all 9. We've been socialized to look away during vulnerable moments, to avoid prolonged eye contact, to find something else to focus on when things get intense. But that avoidance, while it protects us from feeling too exposed, also prevents the deep connection that makes intimacy truly profound. This is often the hardest move for women who feel insecure, but it is also the most transformative. When we feel vulnerable, our instinct is to look away. We close our eyes, or we look at his shoulder, or we stare at the ceiling. We hide. But the eyes are the gateway to emotional intensity. If you want to make a man feel like he is the only person on earth, you have to look at him. Here's what happens neurologically during sustained eye contact. When two people hold eye contact for more than a few seconds, their nervous systems begin to synchronize. Heart rates start to match. Breathing patterns align. The hormone oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone, floods both systems. This is the same hormone released during childbirth and breastfeeding, and it creates feelings of trust, safety, and deep attachment. But we rarely give ourselves long enough in eye contact for this process to happen. We glance, we look away, we break the connection before it deepens. The eye contact lock is about changing that pattern. It's about holding his gaze during moments when your instinct is to look away. During a kiss, instead of closing your eyes immediately, keep them open for a few seconds and look at him. Right before you touch him, lock eyes and hold that gaze while you move closer. During conversation, when you're saying something vulnerable or intimate, Resist the urge to look down or away, and instead let him see you fully. I don't mean a staring contest, that can be creepy. I mean a soft, inviting gaze. The eye contact lock is about catching his eyes during a moment of high sensation and holding them for just a second or two longer than is comfortable. It's about letting him see you seeing him. Try this. When you are kissing, pull back just an inch, open your eyes and look directly into his. Let a small, soft smile touch your lips. That look says, I am right here with you. It says, I am not fantasizing about someone else. I am not thinking about my to-do list. I am drinking you in. It creates a loop of vulnerability. He sees you, you see him, and in that exchange, the emotional temperature in the room skyrockets. This requires courage because eye contact is exposing. When you look into someone's eyes without barriers, without distraction, they see you, and you see them in a way that feels almost uncomfortably intimate. But that discomfort is where the magic lives. That vulnerability is what creates the kind of connection most couples never experience. Here's how to build your capacity for this if it feels too intense right now. Start with small increments. Hold eye contact for just 1 second longer than feels comfortable. Notice what happens in your body. Notice the urge to look away. Breathe through that urge and stay present. As you get more comfortable, extend the duration. 3 seconds. 5 seconds, 10 seconds. You'll find that after the initial discomfort passes, something shifts. The eye contact stops feeling awkward and starts feeling intimate, connected, powerful. If looking him in the eyes feels too intense at first, try looking at his mouth. Look at his lips as if you want to memorize their shape. Then, flick your eyes up to meet his for just a split second before kissing him again. That tiny moment of connection bridges the gap between physical pleasure and emotional intimacy. It tells him that you are confident enough to be seen, and that is incredibly sexy. And here's what this does for him. When you hold his gaze, especially during intimate moments, you communicate something profound. You're not afraid of him seeing you. You're not hiding. You're not performing. You're right there with him, fully present, fully engaged. This level of vulnerability and confidence is incredibly attractive because it's so rare. Most people spend their entire lives avoiding this kind of exposure. When you offer it freely, it creates a depth of connection that he'll crave again and again. Move number 5 is the breath connection, and it's going to introduce you to a level of intimacy that most couples never discover. Breath is the bridge between the conscious and unconscious mind, between the voluntary and involuntary nervous systems. When you become aware of your breath and consciously synchronize it with your partner's, something remarkable happens. You create a physiological state of union that goes beyond the physical. This is a technique often taught in Tantra, but we are going to keep it simple and grounded. Breathing is the rhythm of life. When we are anxious, we hold our breath or we breathe shallowly in our chests. When we are excited, we pant. But deep connection happens when you synchronize your breathing with his. Here's how it works. Find a moment when you're close to him, maybe cuddling, maybe in a pause during foreplay. Instead of talking or moving, just rest against his chest or side and notice his breathing. Don't try to change it, just observe. Is it fast or slow? Shallow or deep? Where does his breath move in his body? After a minute or so of just noticing, begin to gradually match your breath to his. Inhale when he inhales. Exhale when he exhales. Don't make it obvious or forced. Just gently bring your rhythm into alignment with his. Next time you are lying close to him or hugging him or engaging in foreplay, pay attention to his breathing. Is it fast? Is it slow? Try to match your inhale to his inhale and your exhale to his exhale. You don't need to tell him you are doing this. Just quietly tune into his rhythm. What happens next is fascinating. As your breathing synchronizes, your heart rates begin to align. Your nervous systems start communicating in a wordless, primal way. The boundary between you and him becomes less distinct. You start to feel like one organism rather than two separate people. This creates a profound sense of intimacy and safety. When you sync your breath, something magical happens to your nervous systems. You begin to regulate each other. You create a feedback loop of energy. It creates a profound sense of unity, as if you are one organism. It also forces you to slow down and get out of your head. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Once you're synchronized, you can gently begin to slow your breath, and his will naturally follow. By slowing your breath, you're actually calming both of your nervous systems, creating a state of relaxed arousal rather than anxious arousal. This is the optimal state for deep pleasure and connection. If he is breathing fast and you want to calm things down to prolong the moment, you can deliberately slow your breathing. Often, he will subconsciously match you, slowing down his own rhythm. This is a way of guiding the pace of intimacy without ever saying a word. It brings a sense of calm, spiritual intensity to the bedroom that transforms sex into making love. Anxious arousal is when your heart is racing and your mind is spinning. Relaxed arousal is when your body is fully engaged, but your mind is calm and present. The breath connection helps you achieve this state together. When should you use this technique? It's perfect during transitions, when you're moving from one activity to another. It's powerful at the beginning of intimate time, helping both of you shift out of daily stress mode and into connection mode. It's also incredibly effective during moments of high intensity, bringing you both back to presence when things threaten to become too rushed or mechanical. Some women worry that focusing on breath will make them too much in their heads and pull them out of the experience. But the opposite is actually true. Breath awareness anchors you in your body. It's one of the most reliable ways to drop out of mental chatter and into physical sensation. When you're aware of your breath, you can't simultaneously be spinning anxious thoughts. The breath literally crowds out the mental noise. And for him, even if he's not consciously aware that you're breathing together, he feels the effect. He feels met on a level that goes beyond words or actions. He feels like you're truly with him, not just physically present, but energetically aligned. This creates a sense of intimacy that's hard to find anywhere else. Move number 6 is the tease and retreat, and it's going to teach you the art of building desire through strategic withdrawal. This move works on a fundamental principle of human psychology. We want most what we can't quite have. When something is too easily available, too predictable, the brain stops paying attention. But when something is offered and then withdrawn, offered and withdrawn, the anticipation builds to almost unbearable levels. We are ready to add a little bit of playfulness now with move number 6, the tease and retreat. This moves us from pure connection into the realm of high desire. Desire is fueled by obstacles. It is fueled by the almost, but not quite. If you give everything immediately, the tension dissipates. The tease and retreat is about dancing on that edge. It is about initiating a touch or a kiss, and then pulling back just before he gets fully satisfied. Here's how this looks in practice. You move close to him, maybe you're about to kiss him, and then at the last second you pull back slightly. Not far, just enough that there's space between you again. You might smile, you might hold his gaze, but you don't close that final distance. You let him feel the wanting. Or maybe you start to touch him, your hand moving toward his chest or his face, and then you redirect at the last moment, touching somewhere else or pulling your hand back entirely. For example, lean in as if you are going to kiss him deeply, brush your lips against his, and then pull back and kiss his neck instead. Or run your hand up his thigh as if you are heading somewhere specific, and then retreat to his knee. Do this with a smile. Do this with a sense of fun. You are showing him that you are in control of the pacing. You are inviting him to chase you. The key is that the tease has to be playful, not mean. You're not rejecting him or punishing him. You're playing with anticipation, building the charge between you. Your energy should communicate that you're enjoying this, that you find the building tension delicious, that you're in no hurry because you know where this is ultimately going. This technique works because of how the brain processes reward. When a reward is certain and immediate, dopamine spikes briefly and then drops. But when a reward is uncertain or delayed, dopamine stays elevated, creating a state of heightened attention and desire. By teasing and retreating, you're keeping his dopamine elevated, which means his focus on you intensifies with each cycle. This playfulness is incredibly empowering. It shifts you from being a passive participant to an active creator of the experience. It tells him, I have something you want, and I'm going to make you wait just a second for it. That playful confidence is magnetic. It wakes up his hunting instinct. He will want to grab you, pull you closer, and bridge that gap you just created. And when he does, the satisfaction is so much deeper because he had to work for it. But here's the crucial part. You have to eventually deliver on the tease. If you tease without ever following through, it becomes frustrating rather than exciting. The art is in the balance. Tease, retreat, then finally give him what he's been anticipating. That moment of finally closing the distance, finally making contact, becomes exponentially more intense because of all the buildup. Where can you use this? In conversation, starting to say something intimate and then pausing, making him wait for the rest. In movement, leaning in as if to kiss him and then pulling back to whisper something instead. In touch, running your fingers close to sensitive areas without quite making contact. Each tease builds on the previous one, creating layers of anticipation. This move requires confidence because you're deliberately creating tension rather than trying to relieve it. You're comfortable with him wanting you, comfortable with making him wait, comfortable with your own power to affect him. We've reached a significant turning point in this journey. If you've stayed with me through these first 6 moves, something has already shifted in how you think about intimacy and your role in creating unforgettable experiences. You started this video maybe feeling uncertain, worried about whether you were doing enough, wondering if there was some secret you were missing. And now you have 6 specific techniques that work on deep psychological levels to create anticipation, presence, and connection. But more importantly, you've been developing a different relationship with your own power. The first 3 moves taught you to slow down, to use your voice intentionally, to touch with presence. The next 3 taught you to make eye contact without fear, to connect through breath, to playfully build anticipation. Each move required a little more courage, a little more willingness to lead rather than follow, a little more trust in your ability to create experiences rather than just respond to them. And here's what I want you to recognize. You're not the same person who started this video. You might not feel dramatically different yet, but you've been absorbing new possibilities, new ways of thinking about yourself and what you're capable of. That absorption is the beginning of transformation. You are learning that your sensitivity, that ability to feel and read the moment, is what allows you to use these tools effectively. You are becoming the leader, but in a soft, feminine way that he will welcome. And now, we are ready for the final layer. These next 3 moves are the mastery level. They require the most vulnerability, but they offer the highest reward. These are the moves that make you unforgettable. The final 3 moves we're about to explore are the most advanced, the most powerful, and the most transformative. They require everything you've learned so far, plus a willingness to go even deeper into vulnerability and presence. These are the moves that separate women who have nice, intimate experiences from women who create the kind of connection their partners think about constantly, crave deeply, and would never risk losing. Move number 7 is the verbal appreciation, and it's going to challenge you to speak truth in moments of vulnerability. Most of us are comfortable expressing appreciation in safe contexts. We can tell our partner we appreciate them doing the dishes or picking up groceries, but expressing genuine appreciation during intimate moments when we're physically and emotionally exposed, that's a completely different level of vulnerability. And it's also incredibly rare, which is exactly why it's so powerful. Men are often starved for compliments. We assume they know they are attractive or good in bed, but many men carry just as much insecurity as we do. They wonder if they are pleasing us. They wonder if they are enough. When you can voice genuine, specific appreciation in the heat of the moment, you anchor yourself in his heart. Here's what you need to understand about men and appreciation. They receive very little genuine, specific appreciation in their lives. They might hear that they're doing a good job at work or that they fixed something well, but they rarely hear appreciation for who they are at their core. And they almost never hear this kind of appreciation during intimate moments when they're most vulnerable. So when you offer it, when you say something real and true about what you value in him while you're close, while you're touching him, while you're in that heightened state of connection, it lands with tremendous force. It creates an emotional imprint that associates intimacy with being truly seen and valued. But this only works if it's genuine. Scripted compliments or generic praise feel hollow and performative. What creates impact is specific, true appreciation for qualities you actually value. This isn't about fake dirty talk or saying things you don't mean. It's about noticing what is actually happening and voicing it. If you love the way his hands feel on your waist, say, "I love how strong your hands feel." If you love the way he smells, bury your face in his neck and say, "You smell incredible." If he does something that feels good, tell him, "That feels amazing." Don't stop. Be specific. Specificity rings true. General compliments like "you're great" are nice, but specific praise like "I love the way you look at me" is powerful. It validates him as a man and as a lover. It makes him feel seen. Here are some examples, not as scripts to memorize, but as illustrations of what genuine appreciation sounds like. Instead of "you're so hot," which is generic, you might say, "I love how safe I feel when you hold me like this." Instead of "you're amazing," you might say, "The way you pay attention to what I need makes me feel so cared for." Instead of physical compliments, you might appreciate character qualities. "I love how patient you are with me," or "Your gentleness is one of my favorite things about you." Notice how these statements are about your experience of him, not just objective assessments. They tell him specifically how he affects you, what impact he has, what you value about the way he shows up. This is much more meaningful than generic compliments because it's personal and specific. When should you express this appreciation? During pauses in physical activity, when you're close and connected but not in the middle of intense sensation. Right after he does something that genuinely moves you or feels particularly good. In quiet moments of cuddling or holding each other. The key is that your words should match what you're actually feeling in that moment. If you're feeling grateful for his presence, say that. If you're feeling moved by his tenderness, express that. If you're appreciating how he makes you feel safe enough to be vulnerable, tell him. The timing matters less than the authenticity. Here's what happens for him when you do this. First, he feels seen, not just physically desired, but emotionally recognized. Second, he associates intimate moments with emotional depth rather than just physical sensation. This makes the experience more meaningful and memorable. Third, he feels successful. Men have a deep need to feel like they're positively impacting their partner. Your specific appreciation tells him exactly what he's doing right, which reinforces those behaviors and builds his confidence. And when a man feels like he is succeeding with you, like he knows exactly how to please you because you are telling him, he becomes more confident, more generous, and more eager to please. It creates a positive feedback loop where he wants to do more of what makes you happy. But here's what happens for you that's equally important. When you practice expressing genuine appreciation, you train yourself to notice what you value. You become more aware of positive qualities and experiences rather than focusing on what's missing or wrong. This shifts your entire experience of intimacy from evaluation to appreciation, from judgment to gratitude. Move number 8 is the sensory variation, and it's going to transform you from someone who follows a routine into someone who creates art. Most couples develop patterns in intimacy, the same sequence of events, the same types of touch, the same pace and rhythm. This happens naturally because our brains love efficiency and predictability. But predictability is the enemy of excitement. When something becomes predictable, the brain stops paying full attention. It goes into autopilot mode, processing the experience in the background while attention drifts elsewhere. Our brains are wired to ignore things that are repetitive. If you touch him with the same pressure, at the same speed, in the same spot for 10 minutes, his brain will literally stop registering the sensation. To keep the excitement high, you need contrast. This is the sensory variation. It means mixing up the inputs. Sensory variation breaks this pattern by introducing elements of novelty and contrast that demand attention. Here's the principle. Contrast creates intensity. When you vary pressure, temperature, texture, or rhythm, each change resets his nervous system's attention. A soft touch becomes more noticeable after firm pressure. A warm breath feels more intense after cool air. A fast rhythm creates more impact after sustained slowness. The contrast itself becomes the source of pleasure and engagement. Let me give you specific examples of how to use this. Pressure variation. Start with the lightest possible touch, barely making contact with his skin, then gradually increase pressure until you're using firm, deliberate contact. Or reverse it, starting firm and gradually lightening until you're hovering just above his skin. The transition from one to the other creates a range of sensation that's much more engaging than consistent pressure. If you have been using a feather-light touch, switch to a firm, grounding grip. If you have been moving slowly, speed up for a few seconds, then slow back down. Temperature variation. Your breath is warmer than room air. Use this. Blow cool air across his skin, then follow with warm breath in the same spot. Or use your lips, which are warm, alternating with fingertips, which are cooler. These temperature shifts create novelty that keeps his nervous system engaged. Use temperature, your warm hands versus a cool breath. Texture variation. Smooth fingertips create one sensation. Nails create another. The back of your hand creates a third. Your hair creates a fourth. By varying what part of you makes contact, you create different textures that prevent habituation. Use texture, your soft hair brushing against his skin versus your smooth palms. Rhythm variation. This is perhaps the most powerful form of variation. Humans are rhythmic creatures. We entrain to rhythms quickly, which means we also habituate to them quickly. By varying your rhythm, speeding up and slowing down, pausing unexpectedly, you prevent his system from settling into predictability. Play with the rhythm. This constant variation keeps his nervous system on high alert. He can't predict what is coming next, so he has to stay fully present. It turns the experience into a symphony rather than a monotone note. It shows that you are creative, that you are engaged, and that you are willing to explore. Here's a practical application of all 4 variations combined. You might start with light fingertips, moving slowly across his chest, then increase pressure and speed slightly, then pause completely for a few seconds, then use your nails lightly in a different area, then blow cool air, then follow with warm breath, then return to slow, firm touch. Each shift is a small surprise that resets attention and creates a new wave of sensation. The key is that these variations should feel playful and exploratory, not mechanical or choreographed. You're not following a script. You're responding to his reactions, experimenting with what creates the strongest response, discovering what works for both of you. This requires presence and attention. You have to actually notice how he responds to different variations so you can adjust and refine. You don't need props or toys to do this. You just need to use the tools you already have: your hands, your lips, your hair, your breath, in dynamic, changing ways. It keeps the energy moving and prevents the moment from becoming stagnant. But here's what this does for you beyond just creating more intense experiences for him. When you approach intimacy as creative exploration rather than routine execution, you engage your own curiosity and playfulness. You stop worrying about doing it right and start enjoying the process of discovery. You feel more powerful because you're actively creating the experience rather than passively participating in it. And this shift in your own energy, from anxious to playful, from passive to creative, is incredibly attractive. He feels your engagement, your interest, your genuine enjoyment of exploring him. This makes the entire experience more mutual and connected rather than one-sided. Move number 9 is the full present surrender, and it's the culmination of everything we've covered. This is the most advanced technique because it's not really a technique at all. It's a state of being that you access by letting go of everything you think you're supposed to do and simply being completely present with what is. After all the techniques, all the pauses, all the whispers, the most powerful thing you can do is to let go completely. It is to drop the role of lover or performer and just be a woman experiencing pleasure. It is trusting him enough to close your eyes, let your head fall back, and just receive. Here's the paradox at the heart of great intimacy. The more you try to do it right, the more you perform, the more you focus on technique, the less connected you actually are. But when you surrender the need to perform, when you drop into complete presence and vulnerability, when you stop trying to control the experience and simply let yourself feel it fully, that's when true magic happens. Many of us feel we need to be doing something to be valuable. We need to be touching, moving, making noise. But there is immense power in stillness. There is immense power in letting him see you lost in the feeling. When you surrender to the moment, you are giving him the ultimate gift, your trust. You are showing him that he has made you feel safe enough to lose control. That is incredibly arousing for a man. It validates his protective and masculine instincts. It tells him that he is doing a good job. This move requires everything you've learned so far. You need the capacity to pause and slow down from move 1. You need the intimate voice from move 2. You need the present touch from move 3. You need the courage for eye contact from move 4. You need the breath awareness from move 5. You need the playfulness from move 6. You need the emotional vulnerability from move 7. You need the creative exploration from move 8. All of these create the foundation that makes full presence surrender possible. So what does this actually look like in practice? It means there's a moment, usually after you've built significant anticipation and connection, where you stop thinking about what comes next. You stop monitoring whether you're doing it right. You stop performing or trying to be sexy. You simply drop into your body and feel what you're feeling. You let whatever sounds want to come out, come out. You let your body move however it wants to move. You let your attention go wherever it naturally goes. You surrender control and trust the moment. So, for this final move, I want you to give yourself permission to stop working. Stop thinking about the next move. Stop worrying about how you look. Just feel. Let out a sigh if it comes. Move if your body wants to move. Be entirely, unapologetically you. That raw, unfiltered vulnerability is the most beautiful thing in the world. It is the glue that binds you together. It is the moment where you are no longer two people trying to have sex, but two souls connecting in the dark. This is terrifying for many women because we've been taught that we need to stay in control, stay aware of how we look and sound, make sure we're doing everything right. But that control is exactly what prevents deep connection and intense pleasure. When you're controlling, you're divided. Part of you is experiencing and part of you is monitoring and managing. But when you surrender, all of you is present. All of you is feeling. All of you is engaged. And here's what this does for for him. It gives him permission to surrender too. Most men are also performing, also monitoring, also trying to do everything right. But when you drop your performance and become fully present, it creates safety for him to do the same. Suddenly you're both actually there, both vulnerable, both real. This is the intimacy that most couples spend their entire lives seeking but never find because they're both too busy performing to actually connect. How do you access this state? You can't force it, but you can create conditions that make it more likely. Use all the previous moves to build anticipation and connection. Use breath to stay in your body. Use eye contact to stay connected to him. Use appreciation to stay emotionally present. And then, when you feel the invitation, when there's a moment that feels ripe, consciously let go of control. Stop thinking about what you should do next. Stop monitoring how you look or sound. Just be there. Feel what you feel. Express what wants to be expressed. Trust your body and the moment. This might last only a few seconds at first. That's okay. Even brief moments of full presence are transformative. As you practice, as you build trust in yourself and the safety of the connection, these moments will extend. You'll find yourself able to stay in surrender for longer periods, and the quality of intimacy you experience in these moments will be unlike anything you've experienced before. Here's the final piece. This surrender isn't about losing yourself. It's about finding yourself. When you drop the performance, what remains is your authentic self, your real desires, your genuine responses, your true nature, and that authenticity is what creates the deepest possible connection. He's not connecting with your performance of who you think you should be. He's connecting with who you actually are. And that real connection is what creates lasting desire and deep love. You've just absorbed 9 moves that most women never learn in their entire lives. But more importantly, you've been on a journey from uncertainty to empowerment, from performance to presence, from following to leading. We have been on quite a journey together today. We started with that familiar, shaky feeling of nervousness, and we walked through how to reframe it. We learned how to pause, how to whisper, how to touch with intention. We talked about the power of your eyes, your breath, and your playful spirit. We discussed appreciation, sensory variety, and finally, the courage to surrender. Think about where you were at the beginning of this video. Maybe you were worried about not being enough, not doing enough, not knowing enough. Maybe you felt like everyone else had some secret that you were missing. And now you have not just techniques, but a complete framework for creating unforgettable intimacy. You understand the psychology of anticipation, presence, and desire. You know how to use your voice, your touch, your eyes, your breath to create deep connection. You've learned to play with rhythm and variation to prevent routine. You've discovered how to express genuine appreciation in vulnerable moments. And you've been introduced to the ultimate experience of full presence surrender. I want you to take a moment and just let all of that sink in. You don't need to memorize this like a textbook. You don't need to go into the bedroom tonight with a checklist taped to the headboard. Just pick one thing. Maybe tonight, you just try the pause. Maybe next week, you try the whisper. Let these moves integrate naturally into who you are. But here's what I need you to understand. You don't have to implement all 9 of these moves immediately. In fact, trying to do everything at once would be overwhelming and counterproductive. Instead, choose 2 or 3 moves that resonated most strongly with you. Maybe the magnetic pause felt natural and exciting. Maybe the whisper technique sparked your curiosity. Maybe the eye contact lock scared you a little, which probably means it's exactly what you need to explore. Start with what calls to you. Practice those moves until they feel natural and comfortable. Then add another, then another. Build your repertoire gradually, giving yourself time to integrate each new skill before moving to the next. This is a journey of becoming, not a destination to reach. Remember, these aren't tricks to manipulate him. They are tools to express yourself. They are ways to amplify the love and desire that is already there. You have everything you need inside you right now. Your sensitivity is your compass. Your desire is your fuel. You are not broken, and you are not inexperienced. You are a woman with depths of passion waiting to be explored. Remember that the goal isn't perfection. The goal is presence. The goal is connection. The goal is discovering your own power to create experiences rather than just respond to them. Every time you try something new, even if it feels awkward or uncomfortable, you're expanding your capacity. You're becoming more of who you want to be. You're claiming your right to be a full participant in your intimate life rather than a passive recipient. And here's something beautiful. As you practice these moves, as you become more present and confident, the benefits extend far beyond the bedroom. The woman who can pause deliberately, speak with intimate confidence, make sustained eye contact, and surrender to full presence is a woman who moves through the world differently. She knows her power, she trusts herself, she's comfortable with vulnerability because she knows it's actually strength. This transformation affects every area of your life. So yes, you're learning to create unforgettable, intimate experiences, but you're also becoming a more empowered, present, confident version of yourself. And that transformation is the real gift. The techniques are just the tools that facilitate your evolution. As you go forward, I want you to walk with your head a little higher. I want you to know that you possess a magnetic power that has nothing to do with being perfect and everything to do with being present. You have the capacity to create moments that he will remember for the rest of his life. And more importantly, you have the capacity to enjoy those moments yourself, free from fear, free from judgment, and full of pleasure. That is your birthright. Now, I want to hear from you. Which of these 9 moves resonated most strongly? Which one are you most excited or nervous to try? Leave a comment and let me know. I would love to hear from you. Which of these moves resonated with you the most? Which one felt like a relief to hear? We are building a community here of women who are reclaiming their confidence and their intimacy, and your voice matters. And if this video gave you insights or confidence you didn't have before, show your support by hitting the like button. Subscribe to this channel if you want more content about psychology, relationships, and becoming the most empowered version of yourself. If you found value in this, please consider subscribing so we can continue this conversation. There is so much more to uncover about the psychology of connection and the power of the feminine spirit. Share this video with a friend who might benefit from this information. Not everyone is comfortable talking about intimacy openly, but every woman deserves to feel confident and powerful in this area of her life. By sharing, you're helping create a community of women who support each other's growth and transformation. Remember, you are not too old, too inexperienced, or too anything to create the kind of intimacy you desire. You have everything you need already inside you. These moves simply help you access and express what's already there. Your presence, your authenticity, your genuine desire for connection, these are your greatest assets. Trust them. Trust yourself, and know that every small step you take toward greater presence and confidence is a victory worth celebrating. Until next time, remember, you are magnetic, you are worthy, and you are ready. Thank you for spending this time with me. Thank you for being brave enough to learn and grow. Thank you for caring enough about your relationships to invest in becoming better. You're exactly the kind of woman who transforms not just her own life, but creates ripples that affect everyone around her. Go create some unforgettable moments.